Freelancer Codex podcast. Your host, Steven, and co-hosts Mike, Devon, and JD are all set. Join us and tweet your questions at Freelancer Codex. Find us on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or send emails to freelancercodex@gmail.com. Strap into your javelins and let's drop in. Welcome, Freelancers, to episode 45 of the Freelancer Codex podcast. I am your host, Steve, along with my two co-hosts that are here with me today, JD and Devon. Guys, I want to get to know you a little bit better, so I need to know, and you need to tell me, this is a very important question, your favorite breakfast cereal, JD.
Yeah, I'm going to say Oreos. They recently came back to the United States. They went away for like a decade, but used to love them, and they're back. Very happy.
Are they mini Oreos?
Not quite. It's more like imagine like not necessarily like the taste of Oreos. Like they're kind of close to the taste of Oreos, but it's more like a Oreos in the same style as Apple Jacks. So.
Oh, I got you. So they taste like those, like the what is the off-brand Oreo that you get that comes in the package with the vanilla
maybe,
Oreos.
I don't know. They're really good.
All right.
Or at least I like them. I like them a lot.
What's the Oreos mascot? Did Oreos have a mascot? It was probably a dog, right? Most breakfast cereal mascots are animals.
I think the mascots of Oreos is just regular old Oreo. See, there's a regular old Oreo on the back of the box right here.
Not a sponsor.
Not sponsored, but hey, if you want to be.
All right, Devon, you have a favorite breakfast cereal? You probably don't eat breakfast. You're weird like that.
I eat breakfast. I eat a breakfast burrito now. For cereals, there's a couple different ones I like. I'm a fan of the rice Chex or corn Chex. I like Crispex, where they combine the two, and their powers shall be greater. No.
Okay.
But my favorite one would be, I always confuse the name. It's not Golden Grams. It's got a frog on it.
Yeah, the Smacks.
Smacks, yes. There you go. I always get the
All
names
right.
confused because I think of that plus another one.
I gotcha. I have to go with good old
Stacks.
fashioned honeycomb. I could probably eat bowls and bowls of that stuff, but I probably shouldn't because, cereal is not the best thing for you. But got to take it away from me or else I'll eat the whole box in one sitting. Guys, this is episode 45 of the Freelancer Codex podcast. There are only 226 days remaining until the release of Anthem. There's only 219 days remaining if you get it through Origin Access, so you get to play it 10 days early. I believe you get to play it 10 days earlier,
7
right?
days. 7.
7 days? So it's 7 days and you get to play it for 10 hours, or is that just for the...
So if you just have regular Origin, you can play it for 10 hours, but on PC, if you have Origin Access Premier, unlimited time.
Unlimited time, so you get 7 days ahead of console players if you were playing on PC. That's a lot of time.
I'll be
In our
there.
day and age, people will probably jump on, burn through this thing as much as they can. That's a lot of time to be ahead of the game. I imagine
Thank God we don't have
streaming
PvP.
it for that long while console players are like, why can we not have access to this right now? I
You'll be
mean,
watching our streams. Steven and I will be there. JD will be like, what the crap?
I wish I was more of a PC gamer, but you can't make a fish fly, dude.
Technically, just tie them in on the line.
If you try hard enough, you could. You
can't. Okay, that went to a place. So I want to know,
A special place.
I mean, I want to know your feelings on being able to get it 7 days early, unlimited play. I mean, are you guys down with the idea that there's one segment of the player base that would be playing 7 days early?
Mhm.
So you are down with that?
I'm fine with it because I'm going to be one of those players that's playing early. It doesn't come cheap. You get Origin Access Premier for PC costs $100 a year.
Yeah, that's cheap because you get a game and you're going to get access.
But
to
I mean,
the other.
Like I said, before I was planning on buying Battlefield 5 and Anthem anyways on PC, and Origin Access Premier gives me both of those, and it costs $20 cheaper just for the minimum, but we get the best versions of both of them on Origin Access Premier. So you get the best version of every game they put on there. So, you have also Anthem and FIFA Couple other first party titles, plus access to like over 100 different PC games. So
I guess I really don't like the idea of this, because we have the big three. I guess it's not. I don't know if they count PC as PC players. They count themselves above everyone else. So you have Microsoft and you got Sony that have to wait the 7 days. Like with the deal that Destiny made with Sony, that they have year-long exclusivity. They got the I believe they got the alpha first, right? They went alpha on
yeah, Xbox didn't have an alpha. They only got into the beta.
So
and we had the beta for like 1 week less than the PS4.
It was like a day less or something like that, right? Anyway, so I actually don't like the idea that if you pay $100, if you have a PC, if those two things align, that you get 7 days access before everyone else. It's always kind of cool when people jump in together at the same time and are able to discover things at the same time. Because right now with streaming and as big as streaming is right now, I mean, that information is going to be out. And if I was a console player only, that would be really hard for me to not go spoil myself.
Self-control.
See how the game is, to see what's going on in the game. Because I mean, that's got to be a huge temptation. JD, as someone who's not going to be playing on the PC, are you going to be watching streams before you are actually able to play the game? Because potentially you could see the game in its entirety in 7 days.
I mean, maybe I don't want to say yes or no, because all things that circumstances change. And like if you two, like if either of you two stream Anthem during that first week, like, and I'm not doing anything at the moment, like I'm not at work or something like that, then yeah, I'm gonna watch your stream, because it's like, oh yeah, support your boys. But it's probably not. I don't want to have the story ruined for me necessarily. And I mean, it is always a little different with watching BioWare games, because the whole thing is that you're presented with choices, and you could choose things that I won't choose when I go through and play. So, but overall, it doesn't really bother me that people can play it 7 days early. It's something. It's a nice thing to have. Sometimes it works in favor of the developers in the game. It didn't work too well in the favor of Mass Effect Andromeda, but that was a different game, different time, and let's hope nothing similar happens with Anthem, because that would be bad.
And I mean, really, so the Origin Access, what is it, a premium or Premier?
Premier, yeah. The regular one, you can still get 10 days early access, but it's 7 days, but it's only 10 hours.
And potentially that's something that they could bring to
Xbox.
To the console.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Sony says no, we don't want Origin access. So.
Right, they don't want it, which is fine, but I don't know. I just want everyone to be able to jump in and start playing at the same time, so they can experience jumping in together. That's all.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's just going to be people that are maybe just the PC crew is just going to be miles and miles ahead of everyone figuring stuff out, and then console players will be like, oh, the PC guys do it this way, so let's do it that way. So
yeah,
it'll be
it's tough.
Yeah, so it is tough. So next thing, speaking of tough, we actually have a little bit of a lore bit that I guess I missed, because this lore bit that talks about General Helena Tarsis was posted on EA pre-order site, but it wasn't on the BioWare pre-order site.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting that the two websites have some different information. So if people haven't heard, I didn't. So I'm assuming there are some people that haven't heard about General Helena Tarsis, and they're wondering who this person is. There's a little blurb of her, so I will read that real quick. So this is from the EA pre-order page for Anthem. It says, constructing the Javelin is the crowning achievement of humanity, dating back to the first Javelin creators, the Legion of Dawn. In the darkest chapter of humanity's history, it was the Legion of Dawn who brought us into the light. Commanded by the legendary General Helena Tarsis, the Legion of Dawn were the first Javelin pilots, and many say the greatest. From the seeds of their skill and courage bloomed an entire civilization. Their protection allowed for the construction of fortified settlements, safe from the corruption and danger of the outside world. So that's a quick little blurb of the Legion of Dawn. We get a little bit of backstory. We get some information on who the leader was. So General Helena Tarsis was a legendary general. The name is probably familiar because Fort Tarsis was named after her. We went for some clarification and talked with John Warner on Twitter, and we asked if Helena was actually the founder. And his answer wasn't like 100% clear that she was, but the fort is for sure named after her. So have you guys heard this? Did you read this before, or is this new? Was it new to you as it was new to me?
No, yeah, I read it before, and I thought I sent it over to you guys, but apparently I never did. So
Kept all the information to yourself, and you weren't gonna tell anybody? Is that what was going on here?
it was a busy week.
Yeah.
It was that first week we got back after EA Play, and we were just trying to get everything together, round it all up. So we were trying to get some content out, and I mean, Reddit was going a mile a minute, and that's where I saw it. But I thought it was some cool lore.
I don't
So
frequent the Reddit, so
I visit every day.
I'll just get the information from you. JD, had you heard this before? Or was this news to you as it was news to me?
It was kind of news to me.
Kind of
like,
news.
I knew that.
Kind of news.
Well, because I had already read some stuff about the Legion of Dawn, like because of the pre-order information, but the pre-order information that I saw didn't go that deep. Like it didn't mention names. It didn't mention that the Legion of Dawn was.
What you're saying was it's news to you.
It was kind of news.
Did I lose you, JD? Are you there? Did we lose-
No. It's yeah.
Carry on.
I'm
Sorry, I
here.
didn't mean to derail you, JD. Carry on.
I mean, it's just like I didn't know that they were necessarily the first people to use javelins or the first people to make javelins. I didn't know that their leader was the the namesake of Fort Tarsis. Didn't know that, but like there was information out there since like EA Play saying that, oh yeah, like they're named after the Legion of Dawn. And we weren't really sure who those guys were. Like their designs were the pre-order bonuses, and that's where the information more or less ended in regards to that. So it's like, oh, who's the Legion of Dawn? Well, there's also that area on the map called the Fortress of Dawn. Wonder what that has to do with each other, And that does beg the question, at least in my mind, like if the Fortress of Dawn on the map, if we have a Fort Tarsis and a Fortress of Dawn, like what's the distinction between the two? Is it another fort that we can use, or is it a long since abandoned area that belonged to the Legion of Dawn and the first Freelancers?
Yeah, and why is there this separation there? And it is very possible that it is, like you said, maybe at the fort or the Fortress of Dawn is where they went after they found it, because it sounds like these are the first creators of the javelin. So I imagine they were a group of people trying to figure out how they could actually defend themselves from this planet that is actively trying to murder them. So they created the javelins, fended it off. They created pockets of humanity that could actually survive in the world by defending them. They became the greatest and the brightest beacons of hope for these people. Then maybe they branched out, and there's a lot of information. And like you said, this does open up a lot of questions, which I think is really good in a lore sense, is that there are questions, there are thought-provoking instances that we kind of glean from this information. As we've heard them talk about the javelins, that they're handcrafted, they're passed down generation to generation. I imagine that maybe we'll be able to find some of these first javelins created by the Legion of Dawn maybe in the game, maybe weapons that they used, things that we're actually going to be able to use in-game. So, and it just kind of opens up the world more. So, hey, this is the world that was lived in. These were people that fought for people in the past. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I hope we learn a lot more about Helena Tarsis. I mean, the whole first, the founding of the fort, the defending of the people, the creating the javelins, that would make a great novel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a book we would all go
totally
over and over again.
I would buy that novel / comic book or audio book.
Oh yeah, you buy all the books. You buy them in all formats.
All the books.
Speaking of books, we have an announcement that they're going to create the Art of Anthem book. I think they are partnering up with Dark Horse.
Yep.
Who has produced a lot of other the Art of insert game here books. So this is just a blurb from. Sorry, I was really distracted. My wife is watching a soccer game. She was making excited noises. So from the studio behind the hit franchise Dragon Age and Mass Effect comes a thrilling world of Anthem. Dark Horse Books and BioWare are proud to present The Art of Anthem, showcasing the grandeur and beauty of the dangerous new world. Filled with behind-the-scenes looks at 4 years of game production, original concept art, and exclusive commentary from developers, The Art of Anthem is a fantastic addition to any gamer fan's bookshelf. So on a level of 1 to excited, where are you guys at for art books?
I like them. I collect them. Yeah, I usually get them. They've had a couple for Halo when their games have come out, and they're pretty nice. So,
JD, are you a connoisseur of the art books?
It depends on the game. I have to really like a game to get an art book. I never got one for. I don't think they ever really had one for any of the previous Mass Effects or Dragon Age. I think there was one included with the Mass Effect 3 Collector's Edition, but I might be misremembering that. But I mean, I get them if they're available. You know, like I think I have one for Persona 5 because I really like the art style in that game, and I would love to have. I wanted to look through the concept art of everything. Yeah, I would get one for Anthem, though, definitely.
And I think I've been on record saying that this is something that we needed from the very first episodes that we put on, that we need books, we need concept art. The concept art of the game that they've shown off is pretty amazing. So, yep, I've already pre-ordered mine. You can go to Amazon. You can get these things pre-ordered now. They ship on the 26th, a couple days after Anthem comes out. I'm guessing there's going to be spoilers in the book. So for that reason, they probably ship after the game is launched.
is the pre-order up? I thought it was just an email to remind us.
Nope. The pre-order is up and it is working, and you're able to get it clicked, and Amazon will ship it out to you on the 26th, or it'll get to you on the 26th.
Excellent.
So you can get in there, get in that link, and get that thing pre-ordered. We'll probably do a couple of giveaways and give some away. So, because that's always exciting.
Woo!
All right. And that has kind of been some of the news that has been going around. Last week, right after we recorded, first we got the 20-minute demo that we saw at EA Play. We got to talk about that a bunch, and then a couple days after that, they released an AMA where John and Mark were able to actually walk through the video. I think they did it about 3 times, just kind of commenting on what was happening in the demo. They were talking about, you know, a couple of things that they were doing, things that they were trying. They were answering questions from Twitch and from Facebook and from Twitter and from all over the place. They told us multiple times that, yes, you can turn the damage numbers off. I don't know why you would want to, but you'll be able to turn the damage numbers off.
See, cray.
So, I think that, what?
Because you're crazy. You're cray.
This young lingo, I don't understand. So they answered that question a bunch. I think that's probably their most asked question, if they can turn that off. So I kind of wanted to go over the AMA and pick out anything that we did not know or new information that they actually gave to us. So just kind of going off of, I wrote down a bunch of notes as I was watching this thing. And one thing that Mark calls the different looking Colossus that Scylla is piloting, he said that Colossus has a bunch of different bit packs. So I'm guessing that's kind of the nomenclature that they're going to be using for the different items that we can buy with real money. They're going to be called bit packs. Is that kind of the feeling that you guys got from that?
Yeah.
Good.
That's what I understood it to be. So.
All right. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy here. Also, the Dominion is the primary enemy from the story perspective, and they want to dominate the technology to take over the world. So this is kind of a very basic main bad guy goal, is to take over the world. I hope it's every time the bad guy wants to take over the world, like always imagine Lion King, you know, where Scar finally takes over Pride Rock, and it just kind of sucks.
Yep.
And he doesn't like make anything better. It's not like Mufasa was doing a bad job, but Scar comes in and he's just kind of, oh, now it's worse than it was. So hopefully that our bad guys have motivations that aren't just we want to take it because of power, because that storyline seems always kind of boring that they just want to take over just to take over. So hopefully there's some good motivations in there to make it interesting. So, and then what else did we hear about? Did you guys have anything that really stuck out to you before I just read down this whole thing?
Yeah, no, so go ahead, JD. You go ahead.
Well, just a couple of things that I found here on my notes. Fae is another cipher. They did say that. So it could be either Fae or Owen in the cipher seat in the Strider. The other one is you cannot use the premium currency to buy any materials. That was kind of a big question that people were like, okay, well, if you can't pay for power, are they kind of doing it in an indirect way where you can buy materials that you can then use to craft items that would then give you additional power? And they're like, no, you can't buy materials like that.
And even when you can buy them, right, you can only buy a small amount from vendors with the in-game currency. So,
yeah.
So there's not going to be endless supplies of materials then.
nope, got to go find them.
Gotta go grind it out.
I don't like that word grind. So there was one thing that they were talking about as they were putting the echoes, the shaper echoes. Is that what they're called? Shaper echoes?
Yes.
Okay. So as they were putting the shaper echoes into the shaper interface, they were talking about cymatics and how it's going to be a recurring theme, how we're trying to silence the relic using these echoes. So they started talking about cymatics in it. And it made me kind of dive deep into the topic a little bit. So first of all, for those of us that don't know what cymatics are, it's so this is just the definition, right? Cymatics is from Greek, meaning wave, is a subset of module vibration phenomenon. The term was coined by Hans Jenny, a Swiss follower of the philosophical school known as anthroposophy. Typically, the surface of a plate, diaphragm, or membrane is vibrated, and regions of maximum and minimum displacement are made visible in a thin coating of particles, paste, or liquid. So as they were talking about this, it kind of triggered a memory. If anyone has ever read the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson, they talk about this being used in their world building. So real quick, I had a couple of pictures of this. I'm going to pull these up here. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Mixer, you'll be able to see these. Right now I have a picture of a stand-in for Mike since Mike is traveling and he will not be back until a couple more days. So cymatics, it happens a lot when you put like sand or something on a plate, and then if you put tone or if you drag a violin bow across the side of it, the way that the waves move actually moves the sand into patterns that match. So as I was thinking about this, I was thinking of, if this is a theme that's going to be portrayed in Anthem, what's its purpose and why is that the focus? And we have seen that the Shaper relics, they look like speakers. The interface looks like there's liquid that's being vibrated through. There's a vibration that you can see here in the picture that we have up, that as our player goes up to it, there's a couple of tendrils or spikes that look like they are constantly in flux, and then there's a pool of liquid underneath it that looks like it's vibrating. So that's the theme that's going to be playing also. So it got me thinking as I was listening to the it's the 20, what is it, it's the EA Play. So was it like the panel that they had right before, I guess it was during the conference, they had a panel with Kathleen. I forget her last name, but she has a weird last name. Starts with an R, and I can't pronounce it. So she talked about that there was going to be a lot of changes made to the world, made by the storm and made by seasons. So I was wondering if this is where they're going to go and they're going to make a lot of changes to the world. Like every season, there's going to be like these cymatic events that actually change the face of the world.
No, so Jonathan Warner already said no. It's not going to change the geometry. So, because I mean, the whole thing they talked about was they want us to be able to know the terrain and everything and be able to master it. So, I mean, with those seasons and storms, it might change maybe the way the Shaper artifacts react to everything, and maybe change a few of those things. But I don't know that. I mean, they say change, but it's not like a physical change or geometrical change in the world, because they've already said that that's not going to happen. So it's confusing because they keep saying it, that it's going to change everything, but then they say no, it doesn't change the geometry. So
so it's changing without changing, because I guess that blows my whole theory. Because my idea was, I mean, that every time they have a season, every 4 months, they can actually change physically the map that will actually change things up, keep the game fresh, keep people coming back. And there's a lore reason why that would make sense. So if that's not the case, then
no,
I
thought we talked about it like a couple episodes ago.
I guess I don't remember. We've talked about a lot of things. It is episode 45, so who knows what we have talked about and what we speculated on.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what we talked about before, but they really said they want us to be able to be masters of the terrain, to be able to go and do things, and what's going to change is what happens within it, like he talked about one day there could be, a herd of, or a mass migration of some creatures across the world or whatever, across the map, or there's a Shaper Storm with all kinds of stuff going on in it, but it's not going to change, the geometry. But I mean, they have been talking about that with the devs on Discord, where they're talking about, doing strongholds where things change, like after storms. Like they were saying, if it's a big rainstorm, maybe some of the areas could be flooded and you can't access certain areas or different kind of things. And it's definitely stuff that they're looking at, but it's not very practical to always be changing the geometry all the time. But I know that's something we've talked about a lot, was the changing geometry, and maybe that's what the Shaper Storm does. I mean, we still don't know what the Shaper Storm does, right? So, yeah.
They want us to master the terrain. I mean, so are they just want us to master flight? Because when you say master terrain, I'm like, well, what does that actually mean? Just, I remember that there's a rock here that I need to stand on this rock? Or
yeah, I mean, that's what I had interpreted as, like, okay, I know how to get through this. I can fly through here. I can go through all this stuff. And the enemies aren't going to always be in the same place as what he was kind of, he gave the example of, if you fly over this waterfall, there's not going to be the same 3 enemies waiting for you at the bottom of it or over here. So whenever you play, it's going to be a little bit different, and it's going to change based upon what's going on in the world. So, I mean, they give us examples, but it's not clear enough to,
for us to decipher anything or figure out exactly what they're saying. Because, you want to master the terrain, it's like, I don't know, guess you're just going to be flying around most of the time anyway. So, anyway, JD, do you have any experience mastering terrain?
I mean, I was a Boy Scout.
Fair enough. So you have experience. You use the compass. You can be able to figure all that stuff out. So
I wasn't a very good Boy Scout.
Did you get lost a lot? So Devon, you had a picture up here of something that you want to talk about. You were noticing as you were going through your video review.
Yeah.
Of the.
Are you going to put it up on yours, or you want me to put it up on mine?
Let me see. I can put it up right here. I've got the technology. And
technology. Nope, not that one.
That didn't work. Maybe my technology is broken.
That's sort of the one, yeah. But
that's
the
same one.
It's the one. You just cropped it and stuff. But yeah, so when I was going through, a Reddit user, I just forgot their name. I had found this, and then I looked back through Reddit, because before you post things, you should actually look it up to see if it's already a topic. But it's just something new for a lot of people on the internet.
Like using the search function?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Search and see if somebody already posted something about this?
Or giving credit to people?
Yeah. What?
Anyway.
But anyways, yeah. So what I saw is, this is on a legendary Scar Shield. And to me, it looks like an insect, right? I mean, it looks like there's 2 eyes, and some antenna coming off it up the top. And, I mean, it definitely, to me, looks like some kind of insect. And I just thought it was really cool. And so I was like, hey, check this out. What do you think? And, I mean, the people on Reddit, they say the same thing when I found the topic from 5 days ago or whatever it was. They're like, yeah, it kind of looks like an insect. And obviously, since the Scar are more insect than humans. And, even what's Mark during the Ask Me Almost Anything About Anthem, he's like, they look like they're humanoid, but they're not humanoid. And so, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, that's what their shape looks like. But I mean, what do they look like under all their armor? And is that what they look like? What do you think, JD? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, like if you're thinking about insects and everything like that, I mean, it could be that this is either part of one, or maybe it might be what they look like when they're younger or something. I mean, if they're related to insects in any way, they could have a larval state. They could have, or something before, like they metamorphose into scars as we know them, or maybe that's what they were before the shaper technology goes. I mean, it could even be a situation where, like they look like this, and then because the scars have some kind of connection to the shaper technology, or they use it to some extent, they actually have like some kind of like ritualistic transformation from that into a scar, and it's kind of like part of their culture or something like that, like an ascension ceremony or something. I don't know, I'm spitballing here.
Well, I think it's actually a silhouette of a scar.
That's what I think it is.
Yeah, so there's like right over there on the right, you can see kind of the shoulder outline. Someone standing up. There's the head of it. Looks like it's got, the face of a bee. It's got those fuzzy little things like.
Or grasshopper.
It's got the things that come down. That's what it looks like. So I think this is actually a scar. I guess my thought was like, what is this? A leader of the scar? Is this, the scars need to paint like propaganda to get other scars to join their cause? Because when you think insect, you automatically think hive mind. They've even mentioned the term hives, that they build these hives and they conjugate around. But is it something where they're all controlled by one person? Do they have their own ability to think and to do other things? I imagine they do, because it wasn't like you were being swarmed by these guys. It looked like they're using different tactics to attack you. Yeah. So, yeah, and you're right. Maybe they do start in a lava state, JD, and that's really gross.
Yeah. I mean, they did say like the Scar are the constant enemy, along with the creatures in the world. They're the constant enemy that you fight, where, as you said before, like the Dominion are the story enemy that we fight in the game. So the Scar are going to be there everywhere, all over the planet, everywhere you go, along with the creatures that are out there to eat you.
There's always going to be bugs, and they say everything in Anthem is 10 times bigger than the humans are. So if you imagine all the bugs that we have in our world just 10 times bigger, that's a place I would not want to live either. So
nope.
I should have put a picture on here when I was looking through the video. One of the frames had this huge butterfly that was just bigger than the size of the Colossus head.
Oh, just because of the way it was shot.
It was so close to the camera, but it could be. You never know. It like flew behind it. So,
So Mark did say that strongholds are going to be about 35 to 45 minute experience. So they're not the longest end game content. They haven't talked.
Is
about
that on
yet.
normal or hard or?
I don't know. I guess it depends on how good you are. I mean, eventually you play it enough, you could probably, if you're doing that on hard, in 35 minutes, 30 minutes. And usually developers tend to overestimate how long it takes us to do things when they tell us it's going to take us a really long time, and you beat it super quick, just because there's a lot of us and we're able to play test a lot of things faster than a group of 200, 300 people. So.
Well, I like that they have scoring, right? So scoring and for the strongholds and other elder game activities. So.
Yeah, and that'll definitely be something that we'll be having contests, see if we can get groups of people to see how fast they can beat Scars and Villainy and who can throw up the best scores. So that'll be a lot of fun to do.
Well, it's funny because everybody was like, "Oh, they made it was so easy" and everything else, and the developers were like, "All right, well, let's see you, beat their score come February. Let's put your money where your mouth is." So,
yeah. Sometimes I think that us as gamers, we understand what's going on when they're showing demos like this, but then you get comments like, "Oh, that's really easy." It's like, well, they've been practicing this for hours and hours because they know they're going to have to run it over and over and over again, and they're not going to have to die. So, things are tuned down. I imagine
sweet
they have
loot.
really high-level gear, so that they're showing off. I mean, we were able to see the Ranger had I know they called it in the AMA, they called it a legendary pulse rifle, but they clarified on that.
Yeah.
What's the weapon actually?
It's a pulse rocket. So if you look at the Ranger, the forearm rocket launcher, that's what it comes from. It's a legendary piece of gear. So everything they were using was legendary. And actually, in the video I put out earlier for episode 2 of the breakdown, you can actually see where the Ranger almost dies when they first encounter not first, but right after the storm calls a lightning storm down onto the Scar there, and they fight the first legendary Scar. The Ranger's getting like smoked by the flaming scar. It almost dies, loses all its shield, and about 90% of its health. It's pretty crazy.
You gotta watch out. It's not gonna be a walk in the park. So.
Nope.
They did tell us that the flare that the ranger threw into the hole before they jumped down and fought the giant spider thing was actually an emote. So
Emote.
we are going to have an emote that it looks like it actually has a use. So it's going to be something useful that you can do. Looked really seamless. At first, we all kind of thought that might be an ability that you have, but nope, it's going to be an emote. So imagine there's going to be a lot of other things that you'll be able to do. You'll probably be able to call a helicopter or something to come in and save you.
Come save me.
We talked about free play and being able to explore and do all the exploration that you want. If you do jump into free play, there will still be 3 people on that server with you, but you don't necessarily have to interact with them. You won't be pulled into their cutscenes or into whatever they're doing. You'll just be able to continue playing the game and exploring and mastering that terrain, so you can fly around and memorize where all the rocks are.
Is it just 3? I thought there was more. Or is it just only 4 players?
Well, there should be 4. You plus 3 is 4.
I know, but I'm saying and because they say in free play you can go in as a group of 4 people, but you're not tied to each other. So you can still be in a group, but go your separate ways and do whatever you want.
No, right, but I'm saying if you go in solo.
Okay. I just thought there was going to be more than one group of javelins in the server. But I don't know.
I had not heard that. I've only heard that 4 per server, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
The one thing that we also learned is we were fighting the Hive Tyrant, and this was kind of an interesting question that I hadn't even thought about yet. They said that larger creatures, like the Hive Tyrant, like the Titan, in order for status effects to actually stick to them, they will need to have more of those effects actually stack. Mm-hmm. So you can't just shoot one frost grenade onto a Hive Tyrant and expect it to freeze in place. It's going to be something that you have to do multiple times. While we were watching in the demo, you can see that they're hitting it with the flamethrower for a long period of time before the Hive Tyrant actually catches on fire and has that status effect applied to them. Yeah. So it's going to be a little bit more strategy instead of, all right, throw the fire grenade and catch it on fire. You're going to actually have to plan, organize that a little bit more if you want those status effects to stick to bigger creatures. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that.
And then I laughed a little bit when Mark said that Anthem was coming to the Xbox 360. So, I don't think it's going to be able to run on the 360.
He's like, wait, who said that? What?
But I'm sure, there's a lot of different Xbox names, so it gets confusing. You got the Xbox One, the S, the X, and the 360 and all that other stuff.
That marketing deal's locked down tight, right? No.
Yeah, very tight. It's like, are we putting this on?
You can't even mention it's on another console, Sony.
So, one of the favorite things that they did confirm for me is that there's not a dab animation or emote in there yet. So that's pretty awesome. Dabbing.
Steven, it'll be there for you.
No, I really hope there's not. So then we will have customizable join animations, something that we speculated on earlier, that the join animations for the Rangers that dropped in during that first 2017 E3 trailer showed the Rangers coming in and showing different animations. So that has been confirmed. That'll be something we'll probably be able to purchase with premium currency. We'll be able to unlock in the game as we play the game. So bring on the more animations, the better. I mean, these are the things that are going to keep the game funded. So if they look cool, if they're fun, people want them, this is what's going to keep that money rolling in for Anthem. JD, do you have any specific join animations you want to see?
I mean, I hate to sound like a stereotypical nerd, but the superhero landing is always a classic. Honestly, I would like to see a join animation that is just pure failure. Well, pure failure. Like you just pop in and then just drop to the ground. Like you look like you just walked in and tripped. What was that?
Like Bruce Banner jumping onto the Bifrost, trying to change it. That would be pretty fun. Actually, I like it. It's a good idea.
That'd be great.
We'll call it the JD flop.
The JD flop.
The one thing that they did say that you cannot drive the Strider. Holic is our driver, and he'll be driving it around. It's our forward base, and you use it to fast travel from point to point. So when you do click fast travel, it's kind of insinuated that is the Strider actually traveling to that spot. So it sounds like wherever we go on a mission, our Strider will be with us. I don't know how many times we'll actually be flying out of Fort Tarsus. Maybe that will be the free play, is we actually fly from the fort, or maybe just in that region. So, and they did say that there are not a lot of Striders in the world, so it's something that's pretty hard to build. There's not a lot of them. We did see one get destroyed in the first 2017 E3 trailer.
It's caravans.
So,
yeah.
And now there's one less of them. So sounds like we really need to take care of our Striders and protect them. I wonder if we're going to have escort missions, Strider escort missions. I mean, that sounds like something that's very feasible, with that thing walking around and having to escort it through some wyverns and some scars and stuff. So,
protect me while I open the store. Hold on.
we all like those. We all really like those escort missions. So that happens a lot.
No, I mean, it'll be interesting. There's going to be a lot of stuff. I mean, everything's handcrafted, right? So,
someone's got to weld that thing.
Yeah, it's all valuable and all needs to be protected. I was thinking about that that how all this stuff is handcrafted, and then that first time you come up to the scars, there's like 3 rangers hanging up there that have ranger javelins. I'm like, man, there's a lot of extra ranger parts right there.
Yeah, it's very possible that we've got scavengers. They did talk about someone asked during the AMA if you'll be able to get out of your javelin and go into the world. And they mentioned, it's like, no, you really wouldn't want to do that. Like hunters are out there doing that. So maybe there are groups of people that go out, scavenge, try to find these javelin parts that the scars have strung up, and probably use those things to create their own javelins or repair the ones that they do have.
Well, I mean, they said, who was a Game Informer? I think they said when they got to play up at Edmonton, they said like one of the side quest missions was to go save a sentinel who got in trouble outside of Fort Tarsus, and other people, to go rescue him and different things. So
it's a lot of options for a lot of quests to go out there. So world's going to be lived in. Sentinels are probably going to need a lot of help. So play nice with Sentinels. They did say that there are 4 javelins, and I air quote, at launch, and they're not talking about the future. So most likely, I'd be surprised if they only stuck with 4 javelins after the game is released and they didn't add anything else. Seems like something they could do to increase the longevity of the game is bring in a whole new class that plays differently, that makes everything, that changes up the gameplay. So you're not just playing with the same classes over and over again. So,
well, I think it's hard because you're not really a class, right? So I mean, each javelin is different, but they're not locked to a class. I mean, as a pilot, you can play in any of those javelins. They're more specialized, but it's not like, your Colossus has to be a tank or something like that, or the healer. Not the typical classes that we normally have. So that's where, like, when I think about more javelins, it's like, I mean, what are they going to do, to make it different? Because you can make your own stuff.
I don't want to derail you real quick. Do you have the sound on Mixer?
I don't know.
We have a couple people saying that they are unable to hear us through Mixer. If we can derail our conversation real quick to see if that works.
Well, let's see if that works.
JD, you can give me a breakdown of what you think about all of that. All Devon is trying to get that going.
It should be working now. Who's? I don't see any comments on here. Let me refresh this.
No, the comments are mostly coming from the Discord.
All right, it's back up and working now.
Okay.
Oh, it says there's 0 viewers, so I don't.
Well, they all left because they couldn't hear anything.
They're like, I can't hear anything.
Hear your thought.
What was that?
You can continue your thought.
I'm sorry, I just totally blanked. What were we talking about?
Right, I will carry
javelins is what we were talking about.
Talking about javelins and
extra javelins, DLC.
Oh yeah. No, they're totally gonna add one. I'm sure what we're probably gonna see, because they've done similar stuff in other games, and this might be a little cruel, but they might show us, like, let's say that we have a mission in the Fortress of Dawn or something like that. We might see references or blueprints of another javelin, but we may not actually see it until much later. Like, I would love to see some teasers of future javelins, but yeah, I think they're definitely going to add some more in the future. I think it really is going to depend, like which one that they go with next is really going to depend on what they see from the players in terms of what play style is emphasized or used more. You know, like they might say like, okay, well, a lot of the players seem to emphasize this, or a lot of the player feedback that we're getting is saying we really like this javelin, but we wish there was something more in between, the interceptor and the Colossus that wasn't as focused on range stuff like as the Ranger was. Like, I don't know if any of that's going to be true, but like I'm just giving a hypothetical example. Like maybe a fast-moving, high armor thing, but it has like 0 damage dealing capability or something. I don't know.
And I think one thing that they were talking about, as they were talking about the way you play and the classification or the role that you're going to have, they said they didn't really want the javelins that we have now to fill a specific role, but that a javelin could be multiple roles depending on your play style, depending on what loadout you have. They talked about the Colossus that Jen was piloting, the red one, compared to the white one that Scylla was piloting, that the white javelin or the white Colossus is a very up close, in your face. It has a flamethrower. It had a mortar. So something that's going to be right there in your face compared to a more long range one that Jen was piloting. So I think based on weapon loadouts, based on the different gear that we have, can really change up that style. So maybe you do, like you said, you can get a Colossus that is the sniper, stand back, covering fire, bringing the pain from far away, compared to, maybe someone does have a Ranger that's a close quarter combat Ranger, just depending on the weapons that they have, whether they have a shotgun or whatever other grenade that they have equipped at the time. So one thing they also talked about was, someone asked about harvesting nodes for materials, and they said you don't really harvest the animals. There are some go out and kill the animals quests, but not really a go out and harvest the animals. So you can harvest the plants. We've seen a lot of the big plants in the videos. They look like giant plants that could suck your face off. Giant spikes, giant Venus flytrap looking thing. So those are going to be nodes that are repeatable. Hopefully it's, a quick animation. I really hate just kind of holding A while you're standing in front of something and then you get a thing. That seems kind of boring to me. But there will be, they talked about the grabbits. The little rabbit creatures are named grabbits, and they said if you were out of your armor, they would still eat you because they're about 4 foot tall, and you don't want to go fighting the grabbits. They're going to be like the Kukos in the Legend of Zelda. If you hit a grabbit too many times, they're all going to swarm and try to attack you. So they did say that there will be creatures that won't try to eat you, that their behavior is not going to be hostile and aggressive unless you bug them. They said that the oxes are still pretty tough, or if you antagonize the oxes, they will attack you. There are no domesticated animals on this planet, so if you want like cute little grabbits, probably not going to happen. They'll probably still eat your face off. They're big. And that there are hunters in the world that are out hunting these big game. I wonder if they're doing it in javelins. I imagine they're probably doing it in javelins. So
yeah, they could have more javelins, right? I mean, obviously the Sentinels are in javelins. We talked about it before. The image in the teaser for the actual demo, they showed 2 other javelins that looked exactly the same, kind of a Ranger type. And then obviously the Dominion have javelins. So, I mean,
yeah, we're gonna have a lot of javelins out there. A lot of other things going on. So I would assume that hunters would want to have a javelin. But then they did talk about a bunch of other stuff here. Let me see, I just lost my place. They said there's no penalty for dying right now. They're still kind of playing with that, but if you die, you can have a teammate revive you, or you can respawn, and there will be checkpoints with that you'll respawn at. So they said they did have a death penalty at one time, and it was just kind of not fun to have a penalty. So I'm glad that they aren't doing that. And then currently, the current javelin that you're using will be displayed in the Strider, but they have confirmed that you'll be able to swap between the 4 javelins in your Strider.
Yep.
But the one that you are using will be displayed up front. So they did say also that there are creatures bigger than the Ash Titan that we saw, which is interesting because that thing was pretty big. So we're going to have things that are a lot larger. What else did we have here, Devon? So the game is comfortably large. Someone asked about the size of the game, if it's going to feel too cramped, if it's going to be wide open, how big is it compared to other games? And really, Jonathan wanted to point out that it's really hard to think of this game as, acreage-wise, but we really need to think of it volume-wise because of the verticality, the ability to fly everywhere, the ability to swim. It changes that from, I can walk from here to that mountain to, well, I can go underground in the water under this mountain, or I can fly over the mountain. So it really changes that dynamic of how we think of, oh, this map is really big because it's 2 times bigger than this. Assassin's Creed 2 is 4 times bigger than Assassin's Creed 1.
Well, I mean, yeah, go ahead. Well, I mean, they confirmed, there's a boundary, obviously, to the map, but, flying too high is going to cause you issues, because you're not going to be able to sustain that flight. So that's going to kind of push you back down towards where you should be. But they said you can go anywhere you see. We've heard this before, but anywhere you see, you can go. And at least in this game, it seems like, anywhere we see, we can go. And but if you go out of bounds, it'll teleport you back, they said. And what was it? So besides going out of bounds on the map and going into a couple bottomless pits that are in the game, everywhere else on the map and in the world that you can see, you can go to. And so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and if you go too high, it'll just kind of push you down like there's a strong wind forcing you down.
Yep.
I mean, you can fly in the air, but who wants to fly in the air forever, honestly? They did also talk about, but not really talk about, that the Interceptor and the Storm might have swords as melee weapons. I mean, from the concept art that they have been showing of the Interceptor on the character select, not the character select, but the matchmaking screen.
Yeah.
I mean, that concept art shows the Interceptor has a little short sword. So it's very possible that the Storm also has a sword as a melee weapon, which would be pretty awesome, especially if it's just made out of energy. So,
I mean, that's what the one looks like for the Interceptor. It just looks like a energy blade. So.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I was talking with some people on Discord, and it was pretty much a consensus of it'd be really wicked if the Storm had like a kind of like mage blade, like kind of like a long sword or something, because that would add to that aesthetic pretty well.
It'd be pretty dope, and then you'd immediately get stepped on by the Ash Titan, Devon, if you try to use that sword on the Ash Titan.
I'd hit it and run, man.
Fair enough. So they did talk about rarity tiers, and they are going to use the, I think it's the most commonly adapted rarity tiers used by Blizzard. We have common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, and then they called the last tier masterwork, but they said that the last 2 names were kind of in flux. They're probably going to add their own spin to it instead of legendary and masterworks. So, I mean, that'll probably change, but it's still going to be, white, green, blue, and the color combination. I think that's universally accepted across all games.
Gold.
Because if they mix that up, yeah, it'd be very frustrating. So,
well, I think, for me, I like Masterwork. We've had a discussion about this on Reddit and other places where they're like, oh, I don't want it to be Masterwork. I want it to be ancient or whatever. And they're like, oh, well, because the other games we don't like have the word Masterwork in there for the highest tier or whatever. But I was like, well, if you think about it, like everything in this world, right? So they're all handmade, right? So if you're seeing these javelins, there's obviously people who dedicate their entire lives, like blacksmiths or masters, basically, of creating these javelins. And so when you obtain that highest level, it is a masterwork piece of gear, right? And so to me, that makes a lot of sense to keep it as masterwork, to be the highest tier in the game. Because, I mean, if it's just ancient, it just sounds like it's old, right? So, whereas masterwork is like, all right, these people who've been building javelins for 100 years, and they're masters at their craft, they've built pieces or whatever. And maybe even some of the Legion of Dawn or early javelin stuff can be some masterwork stuff. I don't know. But I just think that it works good for me.
I think it kind of depends on the lore a little bit, because like if like the first people who made the javelins were like the Legion of Dawn, and like they say that freelancers aren't necessarily what they used to be, but it could be that like some of our more advanced like techniques for building javelins may have been lost a certain amount of time ago. So in that case, ancient could make sense. But if that's not the case in the lore, then I would agree that masterwork is the better name.
But I mean, it's like 50 years ancient. You know, I mean, if the javelins have only been around for 100 years, right? They kind of talked about it only being 100 years. So ancient to me is like more than 100 years. But I don't know.
Yeah, and as Russell points out in the Mixer chat, that it's very interesting that I would think that we would find these masterwork javelins out in the wild at some point. If there was a Legion of Dawn pilot, Freelancer, that went out, fell in battle, we would end up finding their javelin somewhere. And it would probably be a high tier javelin, I'm guessing, that we would, I don't know if you can like loot an entire javelin or if you just loot weapons or parts of it, but I would imagine that there would be those found out in the wild. I mean, and I really like the imagery. It was, as we talked about, you know, General Helena Tarsis, like even in our own mythos, we have, you know, famous people like, you know, King Arthur, that, you know, people that fell in battle that you would want to go recover items that they had to use them because they are legendary items. So I would imagine we'd be able to find things like that out in the world also. And that just kind of adds to the lore, adds to, you know, wanting to go out, explore, and find these things that have been lost by others that went out before you. So, and then we do know that there will be co-op scoring on Stronghold and Elder Game activities that they aren't talking about yet. So this will be, I think this is going to be one of the things that it doesn't really replace PvP, but it will satisfy those that are looking for that competitiveness.
Yeah, the competition.
They talked about having leaderboards. So if they have leaderboards and that's something that you're seeing all the time, it's almost like time trials in another game. It's like, all right, this person, you know, they got 200 points more than I did. How can we do this quicker? How can we do it faster, more efficiently in order to move up on the leaderboard? So I think that scoreboard is going to take place and of that PvP area.
Oh yeah, and I think it'd be cool if it, you know, interacts with guilds and other things where it's like, all right, these people in your guild have the highest clear, you know, the fastest clear time or the most points for this stronghold, you know, and so I think it'd be interesting. It'll definitely add competition for between their people and their friends, and definitely something for a guild, depending on how big the guild is. You know, I mean, if it's only 100 players, that's gonna suck. But
I guess you just now you be selective of who you. I mean, 100 people is a lot of people. I don't know if I've ever.
Well,
I mean, it is, but it isn't, right? I mean, it's 100 people in Destiny, and that clans fill up like super fast.
Well, wasn't there something in the 2017 Anthem reveal of like Player of the Week or like Freelancer of the Week?
Yeah, there was an Ally of the Week.
Ally of the Week.
Tarsis.
Yeah, like now that we know that, like, do you guys think that that's going to play into the scoreboard stuff definitely, or?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that's going to play in. I mean, I know they said that they're going to talk about the social stuff later. They're going to talk about guilds later, but as far as an Ally of the Week, see, I don't know how that would work. Does it only show people that are online at that time? Does it show people that you played with previously? Is it going to just give you their scores and, you know, what they accomplished that week? I don't know exactly how that's going to play in now that it's...
Well, and so much has changed, right? I mean, the user interface is different. We learned today that, you know, the ultimate from the Ranger has changed and it's not the same as it was back in 2017. And just, I mean, a lot changes in the game in a year, you know, and then we got another 8 months to go. And
I think if thinking about leaderboards, you know, well, if you go with 4 people, is it going to show the 4 people that you went in with, or is it just going to show the tag of your guild? Because I imagine like a 100 person guild, you're never going to play with all those 100 people. So maybe it is okay that you just have a small group of people that you actually run these things with, trying to get the highest score. So we'll have to see. There'll be a lot. It'll be interesting. And then
I hope it does a better breakdown, like per person, who kills more. You know, because Steven and I will always argue about those things, but like, look at this right here. Who did all the work?
If you can see the top 20 people for the week or for the year, if you could filter it out that way, so you can see, you know, what they did. I mean, I don't know if it would show you their loadouts, because that would kind of say, oh, they did this with this loadout. That would just kind of force people to use the same weapons, because a lot of people wouldn't try to figure out, their own way of doing it. They just see, oh, the top people use these weapons. Those are the weapons we need to use.
Well,
But if you could break it down and see
Diablo.
how many kills, how many deaths. Diablo, what?
Well, I mean, that's what people do for Diablo, right? They go to the seasons to see, all right, this person's cleared this rift or whatever with this gear, and you can check out their stuff. I mean, there's no guarantee that you're ever going to get their same gear with their same stats, especially with the random rolls and their infusions and everything else they're doing. It's like, okay, they're doing this. That's something we can shoot towards, trying to get that gear. But by the time you get that, maybe they've introduced other things where that gear isn't as great anymore, or there's something better. So,
and that's one of the things I don't like about Diablo is okay, because if you're on the seasons and you're going for that leaderboard, that's all you're doing. And if you're not there from the ground level, I mean, it's pretty hard to catch up once you get behind a little bit on the leaderboards in Diablo.
Yeah, well, I mean,
if you don't have as good luck, then you're never going to catch up for that season. Maybe.
Well, and those people that are on those leaderboards, I mean, they play a crap ton of that game, and that's all they ever play, and they put, thousands and thousands of hours into it, and they know everything, all the tricks, everything else. It's been around for a couple of years, but for me, like, whenever I play the seasons now, it's always like, okay, well, that's the best gear, but I never get that set, or I try to get close to it, or I'll just be like, well, I don't really like how that works. They're like, oh, well, you're not going to clear as high or whatever, and it's like, well, I don't really care, it's like, I just want to play and have fun, and so I think if you have, they need to have a place for those who are super into it, super committed all the time, but also at the same time maybe give an idea for other people. Maybe you're having a really hard time. Check out what your friends are using or whatever. I don't know. So
yeah, and I'm guessing there will be tons of online, places you can go to find that hey, this works really good.
Yeah.
This is how you take these enemies down pretty fast. So it'll be fun. I think it'll help a lot having those leaderboards, having them visible to everyone when you go in to see global leaderboards, friend leaderboards. I know that's one thing that Microsoft interface does really well, is it shows you stats from your friends, the games that you've played. So if you're playing Diablo 3, it shows how many elites you've killed compared to your friends. It shows how many times you've died compared to your friends, how much gold you've collected. And those are the kind of things that drive you to, okay, I only need to kill 200 more than this guy to be on top. So you go and do that. So it drives that competitiveness. So
JD, are you competitive?
No, I'm not competitive at all.
No, I was saying JD.
Oh, JD.
Oh, it all depends on whether or not you make me angry.
Okay.
That's a weird qualifier for being competitive.
Oh yeah, I have no interest in competition unless it's showing up somebody who made me mad. So.
Okay.
All right.
So they did confirm random rolls on weapons, so that'll make it so, hey, you got this really good one, but one could be better. So that always pushes you to drive to get more.
Mm-hmm.
It said loot will also, if you miss loot, if it falls down a hole, or if you just missed it while all those combo numbers were going off in your face, that it will go to a mailbox system at the fort that you'll have to go back and collect. They also made it sound like as you collect loot, you're going to have to take it to either your strider or the fort for it to be identified.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen in the field. I mean, that happened.
Last year.
Legendary. It happened last year when she got Jaro's Wrath. That thing identified itself. So it sounds like maybe that's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, no, Mark answered that on Twitter today. He confirmed that's no longer the case. It's not in the game anymore where it identifies itself out in the field. So you have to take it back.
He answers way too many questions on Twitter. I can't keep up with the amount of questions.
But I mean, they said that's why you'll be going back to, doing quick trips back to the Strider or to Fort Tarsus. So
hopefully it's not going to be like, oh, I ran out of space, now I have to go back, because man, running out of space, that's the worst thing ever. So
who would limit space, right?
Hopefully our javelins can hold it. So they also someone asked about cloaking, and they very specifically said we're not talking about the Interceptor and Storm at this time. So I'm guessing there's going to be a form of cloaking in the game, but they're not talking about it yet. JD, I see you wrote down a couple things. Did you want to touch on some things that you noticed here that you wanted to touch before we head out?
Yeah, I'll get through them real quick. So Mark Dara or John Warner, I can't remember which one said it specifically, but they did mention Javelin loadouts. However, they didn't set a total number of loadouts. Like maybe like 3 per javelin. Like they didn't say anything like that. Just that there would be javelin loadouts. Somebody asked about if there would be like any Dead Space skins or any Titanfall skins, references to other EA games or other BioWare games in the lore of Anthem, and they said there's no official crossovers with any other game in any of their canon lore. However, there might be fun little references like the N7 skin from Mass Effect for the Ranger Javelin or whatever, and they might do other things like that in the future.
The skins, it looks like they were just having fun with the skins and throwing anything on there that they wanted to. They had a couple that looked like superheroes. They had one that looked like it had the color scheme from Evangelion. So I mean, it looks like that's the space where they're just going to play and go wild with all this stuff, right?
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to that because I know myself and a few other people that are like fans of mecha anime or mecha fiction. Lots of small little references that you can make with skins in there. The other thing that they talked about were that there were pilot skill trees. That the pilot skill tree is what allows you to fly longer or breathe underwater longer. But they didn't really say much more than that, or if the javelins would have similar skill trees. Somebody on Twitter verified that Nick Terabay is playing Halleck. I tweeted at him same day as the AMAAA, and he seems like a nice guy. He liked the tweet, and I think he tweeted back or something. And then they said the official melee weapon for the Ranger is a shock mace. So, or at least that's what they're calling it. So,
that's what it looked like when we saw it in the trailer.
Yeah, I like when they talked about the javelin loadouts, right? Because I mean, if you think about it, I mean, depending on how they do, it's like, okay, maybe we're running through a mission or whatever, and our current loadout isn't working, but maybe we found weapons, and different things that we've infused them that work with maybe fire or have different, status effects, and so like, instead of having to go back and swap out all your gear, just like in Diablo, you can just go and change your loadout to ones that you've saved with all the gear and all the stats and everything that you like. So I think that'll be interesting, depending on how they work it out. So.
Yep, there's a lot of new information coming out. They covered a lot of stuff in the AMA that they did. I think they went through the video a couple times. They answered, yes, you can turn the floaty damage off multiple times during this thing. But I think as far as today, I mean, that's, unless there's anything else we wanted to cover, I think that's pretty much it for all of our notes, that everything we wrote down. I know they did say the next time that they're going to talk to us, they're going to talk about storytelling. I don't know when that's going to be. They haven't really mentioned that. They talked about storytelling. They talked about maybe them talking to us about the music of Anthem and having a blog post on that and giving us some downloadable goodies. So that'll be a lot of fun. They'll probably do that right after we're done recording, because for some reason they like doing that to us. Might have to change the day that we record so we can get all that information in the week.
Yeah, they've been publishing them, on Thursdays? So
it's time to make a change. I can't do that. Can't commit to that right now.
They heard that we put out the episodes on Wednesday nights, and they just like, now we got to put it out. They got to put out new info after they record.
Thursday mornings we put out new info. I'm gonna laugh tomorrow when they put it out tomorrow morning.
Oh, dude, that's totally what's gonna happen. I guarantee it.
Well, guys, if there's nothing else, we appreciate you hanging out with us, listening to episode 45 of the Freelancer Codex podcast, the longest running Anthem podcast on the internet. For me, Devon, JD, and Mike, who is out, there's a Shaper Storm on the horizon, and we'll see you on the other side.
Catch you later.
I guess I should tell everyone where they can find us, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
All right, here we go and do this breakdown here. You can go to freelancercodex.com. That's where we have a countdown to release. So if you want up to the second information on when that's going to happen, go to freelancer.com. You can find us at facebook.com/freelancer.com. You can tweet at us at freelancer.com. You can email us at freelancercodex@gmail.com if you have comments, questions, concerns, all that fun stuff. If you want to throw us $1 if you get entertainment out of what we do, you can go to patreon.com/freelancercodex and you can throw $1 our way, and maybe someday we'll spend it, I guess. There's a Shaper Storm coming. We'll see you on the other side.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Did that twice? Got to do it twice. Just in case we missed it the first time.
Yeah. And it's freelancercodex.com, right?
What'd I say?
Freelancer.com. Multiple times.
Whatever.
You did.
Whatever.
45 episodes, done. Experienced veterans right here.
It's all right. At least you know you didn't have the audio muted for 45 minutes in the mixer stream.
Yeah, that could have happened. Luckily, I didn't do that.
All me. Got this.
Hey!
Yeah.